Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Migs here, back with another video, and today we have a video from IEM TvZ, which is going to be a mech, battle mech video. I have two games that we're going to go through with Hero Marine. I'm not sure if anybody else played battle mech, but I do know that the most memorable games that we saw from Gabe in two of his series in TvZ, one against Solar, one against Scarlet, was with battle mech. So I'm going to show you one of each. Because just they highlight different scenarios, so I feel like they're important to go over. And he also has a really cool build that I've actually never seen before. Gabe was like, has been like the only real Terran to really be pushing battle mech. We saw Maru play a build, like a crazy build with battle mech, but he wasn't really, how do I say, like, it wasn't his go-to thing, and the build that he was using was pretty cheesy, actually. So I feel like that's not really a build I want to show you guys because I feel like it's not ladder friendly. But yeah. So anyway, we're gonna go here with this build against Scarlet. So it's gonna be our first game. In this particular game, the game goes a bit normal. There is not like something crazy in the early game that happens. It's pretty standard composition from Scarlet. And Gabe also goes for a very friendly and normal composition. So we're going to see Command Center, Reaper, the boat. He's going to go for basically a Banshee, like a Cloak Banshee opener, followed by Hellions and Cyclones. He doesn't go straight for the Hellions and Cyclones like we've been seeing from, I feel like, basically other Terrans as well. So there's a factory. I believe there's also a 3 Command Center version. He's going to pressure with the Reaper. Obviously, you don't need to do this like that. There it goes. Bam. He's going to pace around. He's confirmed a third base, so everything is like super normal. He's not really worried about it. We're going to go into Hellions. And again, that start party. So it's basically 3cc Banshee, which I feel like, at least for the first like 5 minutes, it's kind of easy to follow through. It'll start to get a little bit weird as we pick up in this game, so I do want to give you guys a bit of a heads up that it is going to get rather tricky. 2 Hellions. We're going to swap. There goes that Banshee. He builds another Marine, and the reason why he builds another Marine is just to kill the Overlord, basically. That's pretty much it. 2 Marines will kill the OV, especially if you start hitting it in time before it gets the scout off. We're going to bump the Queen here. He's actually playing really aggressive, and this is only because he didn't see that many Lings and the single Queen. Obviously, you don't need to do that. At your guys' level, there's going to be way more Lings early on. People are going to try to get away with... or people won't really be trying to get away with so much greed like this. So nothing you have to worry about now. Let's rewind here a little bit to really highlight the important details, guys. So, as this pressure is happening, Gabe at 420... Tech W is going to add a second factory, okay? Now, he hasn't gone Cloak. He hasn't gone Banshee Speed. And the next game, we'll see. It's actually different. He'll have the Cloak start a little bit faster. But he's going to go for a second factory already, really fast, okay? He's got 2 gases. He takes this gas at about 4:15. Okay? Now he's going to start Cloak after he starts the second factory. And then this barracks is actually going to build a reactor. So it's going to be a double reactor. There you go. Takes his 4th gas at about 4:40. Taking some map control with the Hellions. A lot of pro gamers tend to land their third a little bit earlier than that. He's actually going to delay adding it so early because his Hellions have been more aggressive on the map. But notice how he kind of rotates back, checks if there's any Lings around his base. And now he has the opposite, more passive approach. Even, honestly, probably may have anticipated a Ling run by there, so very nicely done. Oops, I missed the 3rd factory, so let's rewind here to catch that. So we're going to have a 3rd factory when he lives to land his 3rd at 5 minutes. And so we're going to have basically double reactors and 1 Tech Lab Banshee. So you're going to have, like, Cyclones with no upgrades, right? No speed, no blue flame on the Hellions. And then you're going to have the Banshees. The 3rd factory will get a Tech Lab, and he's going to go for the Cyclone speed first rather than Blue Flame. And at this point, all he's going to build, he's just going to build Cyclones. Like, he's legitimately just going to build Cyclones with the Banshees. And then he's going to go ahead and add siege tanks depending on what he sees. I think in both games he'll end up pivoting to siege tanks regardless. And then he starts macroing hard. Obviously, he's going to take these gadgets earlier. He's going to get that Banshee speed after the cloak. Now he's building tanks. I believe he scouted the Hydras. Where he saw the Hydras come out. Obviously, the Hellions and the Banshees here are getting tons and tons. Oh, and the Cyclones, sorry, are getting tons and tons of damage. He's trading really well. This is the part that a lot of people are going to struggle with. And I really want to highlight this part because this part is actually extremely important when you're playing Mech, especially Battle Mech. When you're playing Battle Mech, the idea is that you want to basically be trading with these early units as much as possible and pretty much delaying the Zerg from being able to pivot into higher tech units like from Hive. So obviously that's a bit scary because as you're doing this, you're kind of like, oh shit, and I could get surrounded. You really can. So that's the hard part. You know, like somebody at you guys' level is probably going to just eat the link numbers, fuck the drones, and is going to try to surround your army and just kill it. And that'll work. Obviously, if you don't get your units surrounded and you keep killing all the lings, then you're just going to win off of that decision. But much easier, much harder, much easier said than done. I don't know why I was messing that up. Apparently, I'm rusty at this. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, pressuring like this is good, and you really want to, but you also want to be very careful. So unfortunately, this is just one of those things where I don't really want to say, like, yeah, you could get away with not pressuring with your battle mech, because that's not really true. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, this is kind of the point, right? You really want to be pressuring on a map like this. So do what Gabe is doing here. Don't go too far into creep. Kind of stay on the outside and just keep, you know, moving the units as consistently as you can. Delete scans if you have to. That's fine. He's actually rallying units across the map. You don't need to do that, you know, unless of course you see something like this, where at this point they only have queens and you can just start killing all the queens. That's fine. Then you can do that. But otherwise, you know, don't feel like you need to be rallying across the map. Double armory is going to go down after the 4th base. So around 7:30, you're going to go 4th base, double armory, and 2 more factories. Obviously, this is like assuming the perfect scenario where you're trading absolutely insane, right? And you're also, you know, undisrupted mining, you're up to 80 workers, all that stuff. I'm going to post the build order below, but there obviously is going to be some like disclaimers there, right? With the whole like, you know, maybe your trades don't go so well, so maybe you're not able to afford everything at the right time. But generally, this is the process that Gabe follows, and you're going to see it in the next game as well. The next game is a far different scenario, which I think will be beneficial for you guys. He's going to go ahead and land his force. He's going to pull back and be a little bit more passive now. He's going to start adding more siege tanks to this. And notice that because of all the trading, Scarlet isn't really able to get into Hive. She's missing +2 carapace. She doesn't really have that much gas. She has an infestation pit, sure. And she's getting OV speed, but she doesn't really have money or money in the bank or banelings. No banelings. So this is like perfect for Gabe. This is exactly why you want to be the best case scenario and why you want to be doing this trading, because, you know, as long as you keep doing this, you delay the Hive for so long, you basically never have to fight against lurkers. So if you hate fighting against lurkers, if you don't want to deal with a random Brewlord switch playing against Mech, or maybe you don't want to play a fucking 28+ minute game with Mech, this is the way to do it. But like I said, you just have to be careful because, yes, you know, if you get surrounded by lings, all that stuff, it can be pretty brutal. Notice here he gets pushed back, so he's going to switch his aggression to some more Hellion-focused run-bys. That's good. So when you get pushed back like that and you need to rebuild your army, if you don't want to, you know, drop the aggro and you want to still be as aggressive as you can, that's when you want to use those Hellions, start sending them across the map and try to do as much damage as possible with that. He's going to get a better army comp. He's going to be nearly maxing out, and he's going to start being aggressive again. He's going a little bit ham just because he knows that he's been trading really well. He knows that Scarlet won't have that much stuff, and he also does not want her to get into that Hive tech, right? So that's why he's doing this. You don't have to do this. But if you're wondering, like, you know, is this really worth it? He really is just shoving mech units down mid. It's fine in this scenario, because of the trades, he's still positive on the units lost, but also he's got 5 bases, extra orbitals. He's kind of going crazy, so he's still consistently expanding, and he's got 100 workers. So when you play that high worker count style with all that money, it's okay to just shove your units down the middle of the map, and here's those 8 factories that we're talking about. So you don't have to build 90 workers, guys. Just stick to the 80. That's completely fine. And whatever extra you would have built on the SCVs, just put them in command centers and add some mules. But yeah, he's just consistently trading. He's kiting. And like we said, look how late this hive is. Look how late it is. I mean, like Zerg players want hive at 10 minutes. They don't want hive, you know, barely finishing at 13 minutes. So very good. Takes another base. He just keeps circling around. Siege tanks here are going to be great. Notice he's not building any Thors. He's not really worried about hive tech, so he doesn't need to do that. He's going to keep concentrating on that tank count. And then you just want to make sure that you don't get caught off guard with anything crazy, which I honestly think would be something nice for him to do, which is just keep tabs on that hive. Make sure he's not getting caught by a random Broodlord switch. I think even if that were the case, though, I think Scarlet is just missing so much gas, and Gabe knows it, that he's not really worried about that kind of switch. But for your guys' sake, let's not play like that. Yeah, look at the siege tank spread. Look at all the consistent scamming he does. A couple of Hellions mixed in there, but mostly Cyclones. And again, against kind of this Mass Hydra, that's fine. And in the end, he just trades super well, and he's just like literally. Honestly, this isn't even the greatest resources loss difference, but because he's got so many bases and he's mining so much off so many SCVs, it's fine. Like, it legit doesn't matter. So this is the ideal scenario. We're going to go ahead and look at a different game where things look much more different. So you guys can get a look at when it looks good and when it doesn't look as good. Gabe still is going to win that second game. So you're going to see how he's able to, you know, pull through and clutch the W. But like I said, it's just good to know how to play the two different scenarios that usually occur when we play Battle Mech. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys. So we have our next game here, which is going to be against Solar on Golden Aura. Honestly, a little bit surprised that we did go for Mech on this game. I just feel like attacking on this map sucks bad. Whether you're playing Mech or Bio. I guess I will say the nice thing is that playing Mech on this map is easier to get 4 bases on because of how easy they are to defend and how kind of small the pathways are leading into the bases. But after that, honestly, I don't feel like it's that great. So personally, I don't really like playing this map, and I don't like playing Mech on this map. Gabe is going to do it, though. So if Gabe does it, it must be good, and I'm fucking wrong. So I'm going to shut up now, and we're going to talk about him instead. So it's going to be the same build. We'll you know, cover it again a little bit, but we're not going to be paying that much attention to it. We'll kind of cover on his POV here. He's going crazy on the APM spam. Pops that factory, that gets that marine going. Third command center, he's the third. One thing I want to highlight real quick before we continue. Gabe is actually going to take this third, and if you were, we were going pretty fast earlier actually, but if you caught it, he actually camera locationed this base as his third. So I would suggest also doing the same and third base. I think it was just easier to defend his mech. It makes a lot of sense. So that's why he's taking it. And if you're playing Mech on this map, you should also take it. Same stuff with the Reaper. Gas at a normal time, right? We're starting off with 3CC Banshee, but then we're pivoting once we get past the 4-minute mark. Drops that starport. Orbital on the third command center. Cloak on the tech lab. And then what we should be seeing now is a 420-second factory followed by a third gas in the natural. There you go. So third gas is the natural. And then we should see second factory. So if you notice, he actually does it in a different order this time. And he also, actually, if we talk about this real quick, he actually went cloak first. In the last game, he went cloak second. Right? He went factory first and then cloak. I want to say, to be honest, I want to say that he's doing this because in this particular game, I think he was worried about more aggression. We also got to think about the players. He's playing against Solar, and Solar is known. I would say Scarlet also plays aggressive when she wants to, but I would say Solar is more known to be a massive skill checker, especially against foreigners. So I think this is also more so Gabe worried about that. So if you're also worried about the same thing, you could follow what he does here, which is go for the cloak and the second Banshee first, and then the second factory. So you go 415, third gas, and then you'll do the cloak, second Banshee, and then the factory. And that way you're just a little bit safer because you're going to have a Banshee with cloak, you're going to have a second Banshee here, and that might help you defend early game aggression better, right? So that's probably the reason why he does it. I'm going to say that that's why he does it. It's good to know that, though, because when you see this kind of stuff, it's kind of hard to know, but like if you think about, oh yeah, well, Solar is a bit of a skill checker, then it kind of makes sense, right? So it's good to be able to explain that kind of stuff. Straight for the Banshee speed, no third factory yet. There goes the third factory at 5:30 in this particular game, and now we're going to see the Cyclone Spammerino, followed by some tanks from the third factory, right? And the speed. Banshees are going to be used to deny the fourth. That's pretty good usage of the units, I'm not going to lie to you. So if you're kind of wondering what the hell to do with the Banshees, maybe you're not even confident killing drones with the Banshees, using them to cancel the fourth base is really good. There will be some times where you're not able to do that, but for the most part, you have a really good chance of doing that, so I would suggest attempting to do that. Here with the Hellions, the reason why he's going to attempt to do a Hellion run by is for two reasons. Number one, he killed some of the Lings across the map, so maybe he's hoping that Solar didn't replace those Lings. The other thing is, I would say the Hellion counts as well, so if we take a look here at the Hellions, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's got 8 Hellions, which is 2 more than your traditional 6. So a lot of Zerg players, especially at this level, will build the minimum amount of units required to defend 6 Hellions. So if you throw 2 more in there, it kind of like throws a curveball at them. And unfortunately, this is going to line up with the spawning of the roaches. It's kind of like one of those situations or scenarios where it's just like, it is what it is. Like, you went for a kind of a Hail Mary play, how do I say it in non-Kona terms? You kind of went for like, you were just hoping that you could do a lot of damage, and then, you know, unlucky, right? You just took a risk. He's going to add 2 more factories at around 6:30. He's going to start, you know, again, he's building more Banshees. He's building more Cyclones. Right, you see the roaches going across the map. He brings the Banshees back. And that's also a nice thing about being aggressive on the map, is that you can catch on to this kind of stuff. You can catch on to the whole, like, oh shit, you know, roaches are coming across the map. What do I do? I want to know one thing, guys. It's really important. Gabe did cancel that 4th base from Solar. So, you really want to think about the potential of getting all-in when you do something like that. Some people, if the 4th base is just delayed for too long, they're going to be like, screw it. I'm going to go across the map and I'm going to attack you. So, if you're in a game where you do that, you know, it might not happen, but just keep in mind that that is an option. And I think it's safe to say that that's an option that a lot of people will pursue because it makes sense, right? Like, maybe they don't want to play out the game because they just feel like they're going to be too behind, and maybe they don't even want to play against Mech. So it's like 2 negatives that they don't want to do or partake in. They're just like, screw it, I'm going to attack you, right? So just be careful about that, because that's like literally what happens right here. Banshees kill some drones. Here comes that big push. There's no sensor tower from Gabe here, and he's still getting out some siege tanks. So I think here, if Gabe knew that he was getting attacked earlier, he would have tried to stall the army out in the middle of the map sooner. Unfortunately, he did not know that, and he was like building up his units. The Hydras here complicate things because the Banshees, right? The Hydras can kill the Banshees. Gabe is trading decently here, but he's going to keep getting pushed. And unfortunately, it's just harder to keep up with the Zerg production when you're playing Mech like this and you're getting all in. So it's rough. So he uses the command center as a bit of a wall off. He's concentrating on tanks now, which is the correct choice. You really want as many siege tanks as possible here. This is extremely all in. So if you hold this, you're fine. You're in the game. He's barely not holding though, unfortunately. He's going to bring out some units, okay? And if you scout this ahead of time, the way you hold this is you just keep producing tanks and Hellions. So tanks and Hellions, you could even be building Banshees if you want to. I think it's more so lack of gas in combination with the Hydralisk. Once you get a good tank count going, about 5, 6, 7 tanks, you start pivoting back into Cyclones, which is what Gabe is doing here, especially with the addition of these extra factories. And you want to use those Cyclones to then just infinitely kite the roaches, right? Because you're going to have speed. So that's what he pivots to here. We start kiting. There's no Lings, right? We lose all our SCVs. Pulling the SCVs here to defend is fine. Notice, though, that there is no Hive, right? There's no upgrades, I think. What do we have? No upgrades. Gabe has 1 armor, at least. So there's no upgrades, there's no Hive, and there's no Fifth. So that's why it's okay for Gabe to still be in this game and even still, like, be not dead. Also, he's building workers during that as well, so if you're able to build SCVs during that time, it makes it even easier for you to stay in the game. That was a meme and a half for sure, so losing all of that is definitely not ideal. But Solar is not taking a 5th, and I think we scout that. So as long as Solar is not taking a 5th, you just chill. And notice how, like, these tanks are insanely impactful, and without Hive Tech, without Vipers, there's no real way to pull them and to get rid of them. So you have to transition, right? So Solar gives up, he pivots for a 5th of the gold, and he's going to go into Vipers. Gabe knows he doesn't have a 4th, right? So he's pretty all in here. He built up a massive tank count, and he knows there's no Vipers yet. Keyword being yet. So he's going to take this opportunity to just say screw it and go across the map. Obviously, this is very all in. But again, like, if he doesn't feel confident having enough units to, you know, like, he's not going to be able to build a 4th right now, keep up with his Ego anymore. He took a lot of damage. He lost, like, how many workers across the map? 45 SCVs, losing more now. So it's kind of a last chance kind of thing. Now, thankfully, again, with 1 armor and the massive siege tank count, this is definitely a doable fight for him. And while Solar has killed a lot of workers, the army supply is relatively close. So Gabe forces the fight. He ensures his tanks are spread apart, and then, yeah, he just decimates the army. So what happened there is Solar's army got stuck in the mid game, and Gabe stabilized. He didn't drop a 4th. Instead, he just cranked out a bunch of tanks, and he hits a timing before Solar has Hive, right? Before Solar has Hive and before he has Vipers. If he pushes any later than what he did now, he would die. So when you're holding an all-in like this from Zerg, and you were able to stabilize on your siege tank count, scan the enemy layer and see if you find a Hive. If you see that the Hive is building, I would advise to attack. Maybe even if the Hive hasn't even started yet, if it's still a layer, you could even attack. But point is, when you get old and like that, and you lose a lot of workers playing mech, you know, the worst thing you could do, honestly, is try to hunker down and survive, especially if you already have a Hive. My advice would be to then, you know, screw it, go down the middle, and just crank out, you know, a big push and see if you can kill them before they get Vipers out or before they get too many Vipers out. And lastly, again, the extra factories here are key. So make sure that after you drop your 4th, you're going up to 8 factories and be able to crank out tons of units. So that's it for this video, guys. The replays are in the IEM replay pack. I'll drop them in the description as well, so you don't have to go to the replay pack to get them. As well as the build order for the first game, or for the second game as well, I suppose. I'll see if I can do that. And then you can see the difference there. If you guys have any questions for Battle Mech stuff, feel free to let me know in our Ko-fi channel in the Discord, or DM me, and I'll make sure to answer you. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.